Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Tonight, I don't know what we're going to talk about yet because I haven't looked at the show notes. I'm lying. But just wanted to take time to thank Sean and the gang over at Firearms Radio Network.
Yep.
And take time to thank Patriot Patch Company, who's the official bandwidth sponsor of the Reloading Podcast. Sorry, I went into radio mode for a second. Anyway, sorry well, by the time everybody hears, it won't make a difference, but sorry to the people that are listening live. But the reason the podcast didn't get posted is I wasn't feeling the best Sunday night. And then I went away to a 2-day conference. And while I was at the conference, I forgot to take my laptop, so I wasn't able to post it. So it'll get posted tonight after the show. Sorry about that. And then I've got 2 in back right now, 2 extras behind. I'm going to post one of them, so we're just 1 week behind. So we've got a buffer. So in case something happens where we can't record a show, we've actually got something we can still put out. Because the way we do it, we really can't just put one in the can and leave it. It just doesn't work. So since we kind of got a little behind with Shatso and everything else, and then a couple weeks after, I just decided that we just kind of keep that buffer there and just run with that. So, but that's kind of what's been happening with the episodes. So in case you're wondering where the heck are these, if you really can't wait, you can get them from YouTube. If you have, if you have the YouTube streaming service or the Google family service, then you can just play YouTube in the background. So, and you don't have to have the video on. But other than that, not much new here.
What kind of conference did you attend, Mike?
Oh, it was a threat assessment conference. We had some people from the state, Wisconsin state office for school safety, and then a couple of other alphabet soup agencies from the state. A couple of them have just been created kind of in the wake of 9/11. One of them's an intelligence agency that gets all these tips and then starts examining them. Had a really awesome author that talked about kind of he broke down a couple. The one he spent the most time on probably was Columbine, and broke down the shooters, what went wrong with them, and all the warning signs that were missed. That's kind of the big thing we find every time we have one of these shootings, just like what they're figuring out in New Zealand right now. There was a crap ton of warning signs and nobody bothered to pay attention. The biggest thing you can tell everybody: if you see something, say something. Yes, it's a cheesy slogan, but short of putting, complete stripped down body cavity searches at the beginning, or, and only having one entrance to every school, we're just going to have to kind of get serious about paying attention to these warnings. And every single one of these shootings, the author has a couple of great books that he put out about it. But he details, he goes back into the 70s to a couple of shootings in the 70s, talking about things, just stating, okay, so this is what was said, this is what was missed, this is what you guys need to pay attention for. If you do any research on any of these, they're all, what the FBI term is leakage. There's a lot of leakage before something actually happens with all of these shooters. And nobody bothered to pay attention. And if people would have paid attention and taken it seriously, it could have been prevented. And there's a lot of shootings, potential shootings, that were thwarted because people were paying attention. Unfortunately, mainstream media doesn't like to promote that because it doesn't sell. So, kind of reminds me of the old Don Henley song. The
Dirty Laundry.
Yep. So, that type of thing. Paul, we did it just for you, baby. Just for you. So, but really awesome. I've kind of, part of it is because I sit at the front desk at the district office at our school district. Part of it is because I've showed interest in the past and have a lot of knowledge in the area, and a lot of people in that building don't. I feel shocked, but and so they've kind of gotten me involved in some of these training seminars and stuff, and it's been definitely a lot of interesting. Some of it's been remedial because some of it's stuff that I've learned here, there, or everywhere, and some of it's just a lot of these conferences kind of regurgitate the same things. So, but just a awesome time. So a lot of good information shared to really help be able to protect the kids. So,
Mike, question for you.
Yeah.
Has any consideration been given to having armed guards?
In
your state, I mean.
In our state, there are probably 15 or 20 districts that have armed staff.
Good.
Has there been any thought of just doing away with gun-free zones and allowing school administrators who wish to conceal carry be able to conceal carry legally?
No.
Of course not.
We are a district right outside of Madison, which is 75 square miles of insanity surrounded by reality. That's not an option. Let's put it this way. The trap team can't even get a picture in the yearbook.
Pardon me while I roll my eyes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is, but all we can do is keep educating and keep doing what we can do and what we're allowed to do. So, that's kind of the thing.
Education is the most powerful tool we have at our disposal.
Yep.
It's really hard when somebody sticks their fingers in their ears, though.
Right. Thankfully,
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
I mean, our district does ALICE training. Of all the trainings that I've seen that they do for schools, ALICE is actually a really good one, especially short of being armed. ALICE is the best option. It doesn't promote straight, old-fashioned, turn the lights off, shut the door, and hide in the corner, wait to die. That's not what it promotes. It gives you options. It gives you strategies. It gives you, it gives everybody who's doing it the chance to think for themselves, and in teachers' cases, thinks for the class what's the best option. It's not always sitting there in a room. It could be breaking the window out, getting out the window. It could be that the gunman's on the other side of the school, and you can run and get out and exit because you can do that without that type of thing. But it's more than that. It's also kind of along the same lines of looking for the warning signs. Honestly. And law enforcement in this country, say what you want, a lot of them are stretched. A lot of them are horribly underfunded, horribly under budgeted, and they can only do so much. Some of them, it's just blatant, absolute screw-ups, and we know who they are. It's been well documented. And so it's a case of paying attention to all these warning signs when there's the leakage, acting on it, not just blowing it off that, that's just a kid's imagination. If you look, he spent a lot of time in Columbine. If you look at those two schmucks' writings, not necessarily even the diary of the one, which is just absolutely tells everything and so on and so forth. But if you look at some of the assignments that they were turning in to their teachers and some of the stuff that they were saying to classmates, looking back, it's clear as day. And unfortunately, there's a whole crap ton of people that have died because of people not paying attention to those warning signs, not just in this incident, but a lot of them. Every single case, you can go back. But the biggest thing that guy did, and I forgot his name off the top of my head. When I get done with this monologue, I'll go grab the information so I can give him due credit. The biggest thing he did is he started off his presentation with facts. And the facts were what FBI facts are versus what Every Town for Gun Safety's fake front website, gun violence, whatever facts are. That was the biggest thing you could do in that room. You had a lot of educators, but you had a lot of law enforcement. So a lot of law enforcement knows the truth, but you had a lot of educators in that room, and they got that truth laid out in front of them and said, no, this is what they say it is. This is what the media promotes, but this is the facts, gang. This is what actually has happened. This is how little this has actually happened. So I think that was kind of the biggest thing. And yes, we hear about it a lot, but I mean, you're talking, they figured it out roughly, and it's about a 1 in a million chance that your particular school would be a victim of this. So that's kind of the things. Yeah, Andrew mentioned that, and yeah, we did talk about that, where there's a lot of red flags where FBI failed or local law enforcement failed. And that's kind of one of the things that especially he's been hammering home is, hey, school administration failed. The law enforcement failed. The parents failed. There's not just one single person. The students failed. The student body failed because they refused to say something. So, and that's kind of the thing is that was kind of New York's law enforcement's motto after 9/11 was see something, say something, because there was warning signs for 9/11 that they could have been stopped as they dig farther into it. If you ever read he read some excerpts from the 9/11 Commission. So, and there is so many things and so many issues that present themselves in these cases, and if somebody just takes a couple seconds to stop and analyze. And he may also made the point about kids going out on the weekend and shooting ARs with their dad and blowing up tannerite and stuff. He says, is that by themselves a reason to worry? And he said, no, it's not. But when you have other signs to go with it, then yes, you should. But he says, just because kids are using firearms or have access to firearms in the home isn't a reason to worry by itself. So, but yeah. So I mean, that was kind of my week. So that was pretty awesome.
It used to be years ago, children were allowed to, boys would bring their .22 rifles to school with their ammunition, give the ammunition to the teacher.
Yep.
Put the the rifle or the shotgun in the cloakroom, and that dates me. But anyway, they would do that, and it was not a big deal.
Yeah,
everybody knew about it up front.
Friends used to have them in the truck out in the parking lot. So when I was going to school, one of my buddies brought in an old side-by-side, and the woods teacher and him made a new foregrip and a new buttstock for it. The firearm was in the class the entire quarter. Yep. So
I said it in the group chat that the listeners can't see, but it's still legal in Louisiana. I know that really scares the hell out of people, but I mean, it's perfectly legal for a person who legally owns a firearm to have that firearm completely within their vehicle on school grounds, not a violation of state law. And it, like I said, I've had this debate even with law enforcement officers who sit there and will insist it's a gun-free zone, and then I'll actually pull out the state statute and say it plainly says right here that certain constitutionally protected activities, such as a firearm contained wholly within your motor vehicle, cannot be precluded by the gun-free zone. Yeah. Like it specifically says that.
Well, it just goes to show you that even though most of us go to the law enforcement for legal advice for little things like
that's a mistake.
Yeah, I know that. That's where I was going. Phil just corroborated what I was about to say before he even said it about the cops. They don't know the law at times.
And call it what it is. You as a citizen have a responsibility to know your rights and know the law, because if you don't know the law and you don't know your rights, you don't have them. So it's your responsibility to know what the law is so that you're not depending on a secondhand party to tell you what the law is. Like, I have the right to have a firearm in my motor vehicle, Period. End discussion. Can't be taken from me because state of Louisiana considers your vehicle to be an extension of your home. Anything I can have in my home legally, I can have in my vehicle legally. And that right is only mine if I know it's my right. You know what I'm saying? So that's me. I'm not going to be on the soapbox about it, but that's just what I tell people. I'm like, you as a citizen and as a gunner should be so intimately familiar with the gun laws in your state that you can argue a judge to a standstill. Because if you don't know the law and you don't know your rights, you don't have them.
Right.
And I just like to be argumentative. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah, of course. Is this a called reloading podcast or handgun rights podcast?
We changed the name in a split second. All Mike's got to do is hit the button.
That's right. I encourage it.
So I like Vanessa's comment in the chat. I made TNT in high school in 1976. Does that imply I am in danger? No, it does not.
No, it implies that I wish I'd have known you growing up. You sound like a lot of fun.
I am glad that I grew up before the internet. That's all I got to say. So, Andrew's taking shots at you, Phil. Shocker.
Yeah. So, Andrew Bogan, my co-host, is in the chat. He's going to troll me all night.
Good. Somebody should. Yeah.
Trinitrotoluene.
I may or may not know how to make that, or at one point in time, may or may not know how to make gunpowder. So, anyway, but so it's good to get education, and it's good to see it from both sides. But it's nice to see that there's really a push from the government level, especially the state level, and even to the federal level, of realizing that what's been done doesn't work, and we need to change. Yes, it's taken 20 years to get to that point, but so
better late than never.
That's right.
Well, the biggest problem I see is the fact that these people get invested in certain idea, and they just get so heavily invested in it, they just can't let it go.
Right. Like a dog on a bone.
Well, the thing is, they feel that it's admission. I did something wrong, and I don't want people to know about it.
Exactly.
Well, you're doing something wrong, and people do know about it, but you won't admit it.
Right.
Yeah, enough.
Sorry, I looked at Paul Nelson's last comment. I'm not saying it on the air. Anyway, so
yes, Paul. Yes, please.
What's everybody else been doing? Bill,
I'll go first. Thanks.
all right.
I finally got this fun thing put together. My 10.5 AR pistol is done. I had my maiden voyage at the gun range, and it was more fun than the law should allow, and doesn't in some places, unfortunately. But ran like a striped ape right out of the gate. Didn't have a problem with it. Honestly, it proved to be more accurate than I thought it was going to be with this short of a barrel. I mean, I'm kind of limited by the fact that I have a 4 MOA red dot on it, but at 25 yards, it was stacking rounds. So it's exact.
That's a handgun?
The ATF says it is.
Okay. Well, if you're going to use it as such, then that's no limitation. For 25 meters, 25 yards, 4 power. That's actually a lot of magnification.
No, not 4 power, 4 MOA. The size of the reticle is 4 MOA.
My mistake. Well, that's 4 inches at 100, so that's about 16 inches at 25. That's center mass.
Yeah.
The human chest is about 18 inches across, on average.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, I was shooting at a target that was big enough around that I could kind of center the dot in that target, and it shot accurately enough to make me pretty happy with it. So I've got some more time to spend with this thing to get better acquainted with it, and I'm doing a test and evaluation on this folding stock adapter, which we'll kind of have to see how that holds up long term, because my co-host also did a test and evaluation on one and broke it. So Other than that, I also put a primary arms 1-6 on my 18-inch rifle and took that red dot off that rifle. So I now have a much finer aiming point in that primary arms 1-6, and finally really got a good look at what that rifle does. And it was doing about a 2-inch group at 100 yards. And I by no means like really worked hard at building a load, to be super accurate with that rifle. It's basically my plinking ammo. So,
Well, two inches at 100 yards, that's 2 MOA or thereabouts. That's like a standard rack weapon, no problem at all.
yep. I'm suspecting that if I take my time to individually weigh charges, maybe switch to a 77 grain Sierra Match King, I probably eke out some better accuracy than what I got out of my 55 grain plinkers. But I'm happy. It's been a productive week. Now I just have to really get myself invested and spend some time with the reloading bench, because I'm going to a Project Appleseed shoot at the end of April. So I need to make some ammo. Anybody here not familiar with Project Appleseed?
I knew who John Chapman was. Do you? Have you ever heard the name Johnny Appleseed?
Yeah, but we're not talking about that, silly.
I know that.
I know you were childhood friends, but come on.
Yeah. Johnny Appleseed was where they got the name Appleseed Project, the same exact method that John Chapman used.
Mm-hmm.
One seed at a time, one orchard at a time, one shooting event at a time, as it were.
Yeah. Well, a friend. Sorry, Mike.
It's based off the Army marksmanship training program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the training. I'm talking about the concept.
Yeah. Well, a friend and a fellow podcaster, Tom Wall from the Armed Squirrels Project, he's going to be officiating that one of the events that's actually kind of within driving distance of where I live. So I'm going to go up and shoot with him and meet him and hang out with him for a weekend. But that means I have to make some ammo. Darn. But that's all I've done in guns and reloading. Put one firearm together, 0.2 optics, trimmed a bunch of brass, primed a bunch. I've been productive.
I heard there was somebody out there trying to drive nails through nickels. You know anything about that, Jason?
I shot a nickel,
Did you know?
and you said I drove a spike through it.
Tell us about it, Jason.
So yeah, I went shooting Sunday with my buddies. They both had some ladder tests to do, so I went out there to hang out with them, and we were just shooting at the 100-yard. And I've got my one MOA dots I always put on my targets, and I shoot at those. And I couldn't remember if I ever shot a coin before, so I just thought, I'll try it, see what happens. Excuse me. But I mean, a nickel is darn near one MOA at 100 yards, close enough. So I was pretty confident I could hit it anyway. So yeah, I shot it and drilled a nice hole through the nickel. There it is. Excuse me. But one of my buddies busted my buttons. He wanted me to shoot a group through it. Well, I couldn't because it's a cardboard backer. So I'd literally have to wait for every ceasefire to go out there and reset the nickel, because when I hit it, it pushes it through the cardboard, sticks in the cardboard.
And then you got to find the nickel too.
And you got to find it. But this was actually stuck in the cardboard backer. It flipped it and stuck in the cardboard. But it was fun to do. But it just depends on your ability. I mean, I'm shooting sub MOA. I was pretty confident I was going to hit it. Now, if I'd moved it out to 200 or 300 yards or something like that, then that would be something to be proud of as far as where I'm at right now. 10 years ago, if I would have hit a nickel at 100 yards, I would have been jumping up and down, extremely happy. But it just depends on where you're at. If my family members had done that, I would have been ecstatic for them. But I just wanted to shoot a nickel and see what it was like and see what it would do.
Somebody accused you of cheating.
You did.
Yeah, no. So somebody else accused you of being a cheapskate, I should say.
Oh, for not shooting a dime?
Right. Smallest coin we have in the monetary system.
I could have done that. I'll do it next time.
We'll hold you to that, bud.
Okay. You got it.
How about you, Travis? Did you do anything? Can you come on the air and tell us?
Yeah, so 3-gun season for us starts up the first of next month. So I went out to the gun range, kind of knocked the dust off my competition pistol, shot a couple rounds through it.
Come on, Travis. You got to do more than that. Now, come on. I'm still trying to find my pictures that I took.
What did you do?
Well, I've been working on my press mounting system. Found out that I was going to go down in size to a 6x6 wooden plate, and it's a good thing I decided to do some investigation with the between the Forster, the Lee, and the Dillon 550. The Dillon, of course, has got the largest footprint. Well, I was going to go with 6x6, but unfortunately, where the bolt holes would have been, the footprint of the press literally covers it. And that's just not going to work. You know, how do you bolt a press plate down, mounting plate down, if you got a press in the way already? Very bandwidth. There it is. There it is. Okay, I'm going to screen share this so the guys on the guys alive. Let's see here. Try to screen share this. Okay, that's Phil. Moving over to Google Drive. My bandwidth is very slow. I'm pushing it hard. My wife is on the phone too. Okay, what you're looking at here is the mounting plate. If you look where my mouse is right now, right there. Okay, hit the escape key. Hit what that mounting plate was. Where the mounting plate hole was is where the crosshairs. There's 4 crosshairs. One here. This is where the press would have been. Here's where the press would have been. And these pinholes I've got here, pinpoint holes, they're actually...
Jim, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you're not sharing your screen.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to let him just keep going.
I let him go.
Great description. I mean, I can visualize it.
Okay, well, apparently another... It says I'm sharing. All right, to hell with it. That's what I was working on. I was working on mounting my press plates, see if I could get them to mount. I'm trying to standardize each plate, or each. I want to come up with one size, 8x8, 10x10, 6x6, whatever, and put all my presses on the same thing. But I only want to drill 4 holes in my bench. I don't want to have 16 holes because I had 4 plates.
How are you going to fix the plates to the bench? Are you going to do like...
That's what I need to drill the holes for. And what I was saying is I need to drill the holes outside of the footprint of the individual press. I don't need to mount it with, I know from experience, I don't need to mount my press plate with 1/2-inch bolts, compress all that wood, because the nuts and bolts are just too darn big. I'm just going to go with 5/16 diameter bolts to mount the press plates, but underneath I will turn a socket head cap screw upside down and put it up through the press plate with a counter bore, and the counter bore I will actually epoxy the screw head and flat washer into the wooden plate so it will never fall out. That way That way I could put my bolts up through the press and have them, the bolts come up through the plate, tighten up the nuts on the plate, everything will be secure. Then when I want to change 5 minutes later, it's sort of like what Mike was showing us when they were using wing nuts in the video last week or the week before.
And
Wing nuts to mount and dismount the press. Well, I'm not going to go quite that's substantial. I'm going to go something a little bit more heavy, regular hex nuts.
And it's easier to put a plate down onto a stud than it is to thread a bolt down through a stud into a blind hole.
Exactly.
From experience.
Exactly. What I'll do is very similar to what I'm going to do for the plate. I'm going to take and put epoxy on I'll counterbore the bolt heads from underneath and put epoxy in that. But in that, because it's upside down on the bottom of my bench top, I will actually put duct tape over the epoxy filled hole to hold the epoxy in place. That way my bolts never move. And as long as I use the same template time and time again for drilling my plate holes, it should never give me any trouble. Besides that, I'll drill a 3/8 hole for a 5/16 bolt.
I dig it.
And I apologize for sure. I thought I was able to share my screen, but I guess I just don't have enough bandwidth to do that. And that's what I did. Been working on for the last few days. Yeah, that's a good one. Bubble gum and duct tape, Mike. Thank you. I'll put epoxy down into the holes too for the around the shaft of the bolt. That way nothing moves. That's the main thing, so nothing moves. I forget what they call them. I think you call it a hanger bolt, where you have lag bolt threads on one side and regular machine screw nuts or machine screw threads on the other. Similar to what you'd use for mounting a hanging planter in your ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about using that, but I don't care for that because I know that there will be enough wear and tear on those bolts, those hanger bolts, that they'll come loose.
Sooner or later, yeah.
You lag bolts in wood, okay, that's fine if you've got something you're never going to move.
Well, but that's the same reason why when I'm out of my press, and what I've told everybody I've ever talked to is skip everything else, go straight to bolts, fender washers, and nuts. Because
I also like lock washers for that purpose too.
Yeah, lock washers don't hurt. It's a little extra insurance. A little bit of blue Loctite doesn't hurt. But the thing I tell everybody is, I'm like, I just don't trust anything that's like steel threads into wood, because from my experience, it's gonna work its way loose sooner or later with the amount of torque you're applying.
You're right.
Just go straight to, one big bolt, two big fender washers, nuts and lock washers, and tighten it down until you hear the wood creaking, and it's never going to move after that.
Yep. When the wood starts to creak, not crack, but creak.
Yeah.
You're compressing fibers is what you're doing.
Exactly. Matter of fact, we had a question, and it kills me. I can never remember who, but we had a question in the Matter of Facts podcast group this past week about mounting a rock chucker. And it just so happened that I have a rock chucker on my bench. So I ran out to my bench and took pictures and posted in the group and showed them. I'm like, this is how I did it. And it's good that a couple of us were able to give him a really quick answer specifically about the press he was mounting.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the whole idea, is sharing information, educating ourselves, educating each other. The most powerful tool we have in our arsenal. Even more powerful than that AR pistol you have.
Not so much fun, though.
Well, yeah, but you can't have fun all day long. All work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy. All play and no work makes Johnny an idiot, a blooming idiot. All right, back to you, Mike.
Alrighty.
Thanks for the suggestion, Carol. I do appreciate that. Oh,
Shots fired.
Gunfire. Shots fired. Shots fired. Shots fired. Monologue coming. The cartridge corner. And I have to tell you up front to make sure to give full credit where credit is due for liability and legal reasons and whatever. We're using a new site called Ballistic Studies. See what you guys think. I still like Wikipedia, but that's all right. The caliber of the week for the cartridge corner is .375 Winchester. It's a lever action cartridge. Anyway, the history of the cartridge. The .375 Winchester was released in 1978 as the initial chambering for Winchester's big bore 94 lever action rifle. The .375 was a revised high-power version of the 3855. Thank you, Dennis. We appreciate that, buddy. The 3855 Winchester Ballard black powder cartridge, which in 1894 was one of the initial chamberings of the then new Winchester Model 94 lever action rifle. The rifle was designed by gunmaker Charles H. Ballard. Historical authorities generally agree that the 3855 Ballard was first introduced in 1884, my bad. Ballard's first innovation was the creation of an extremely well-designed single-shot action rifle. After patenting his action in 1861, Ballard sold the rights to use his design to various gunmakers. In 1875, John M. Marlin, yes, that would be of the Marlin fame, adopted the Ballard action, which was used as a basis to build accurate rifles. In 1881, Marlin formed the Marlin Firearms Company, and it is around this time period that the first references can be found of the 3855 Ballard proprietary cartridge being offered in a Marlin single-shot number 4 Perfection. My page won't go down. The 3855 Ballard earned a reputation as an extremely good cartridge for target shooting out to 300 yards. It was smaller than some of the more common bores in use at the time, but produced a good trajectory and low recoil. The most common load consisted of a 255 grain 375 caliber bullet at 1,200 feet per second. Remember, guys, this is a black powder cartridge. You're not going to get much more than 1,200 feet per second out of black powder. As I understand it, no matter what the projectile weight is, once you hit maximum velocity on black powder, all you do is build up the recoil. Okay, I think I'm going to quit right there. I've read about 3/4 of a page, and I know I'm not the best narrator when it comes to reading. So, if you don't mind, the rest of the information I've got is in the show notes that Michael put up on the Firearms Radio Network / Reloading Podcast page. And I did, for the sake of authenticity and corroboration and credit, make sure credit was given where credit's due. At the bottom, Mike, you'll find the link for this article.
Excellent.
Let us know, guys, if you would, which you prefer, Wikipedia or Ballistic Studies. I don't care either way. Personally, I like Wikipedia, but, you know, data is data. It really doesn't matter to me. You know, it was suggested to me, to the podcast, that we use this new corroborated site because of the verification thing. Wikipedia, all you got to do is have an email address, and you can edit any article on Wikipedia. It's not going to be quite so easy to do that on Ballistic Studies. Over to you, Mike.
All right. So Matt from Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns posted this question. Any suggestions on the best way to choose between powders and a caliber? Specifically between Reloader 15 and CFE 223 and 6.5 Grendel, pushing 129 grain pill. I'm using a 16-inch barrel, so I think a faster burn rate would be better, but I don't know how they compare. Well,
Again, as we always do, I would preface that request by what do you want to do with the caliber, Mike or Matthew? You know, are you going to be plinking? Are you trying to build long range stuff? Are you trying to build 55 mmJ to 55 FMJ? I'm sorry, to make the hard times ammo, that sort of thing.
I think Jason has a thought. Sorry, Jim. I thought you were done.
Go ahead, Jason, please. I wasn't even looking to hang out the screen.
Get quick loads.
I mean, I just brought up because he's like waving a copy of Quick Loads in front of his camera.
I love Jason's terse answers. I love them. I really do. Hold it up again, Jason. This time, say something.
He's going to say something. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Something. Thank you, Phil.
See. Now, here's the question, Jason. I know Quick Loads like lets you basically test bullet and powder and primer combinations and then get a result. I guess, first of all, how it can only really help you predict velocity and pressure. It can't really tell you what's going to group the best, can it?
No, it can't. But we do have what the heck is that called?
OCW, ladder test?
OCW, thank you. We do have a OCW chart, and this gives you your milliseconds in your barrel that coincides with OCW.
Excellent point.
It's helpful.
No, I mean I think I kind of got the impression that's where the question was heading from a perspective of what's the best powder to use, and I didn't know what Quick Loads could again spit as far as data to accommodate that.
Well, Quick Loads it'll let you compare powders for your specs, your caliber, your barrel length, your case capacity. It'll do a lot of different things. And for a redneck like me, it helps a lot. Somebody as techie as Matt, he can probably design rockets or something with it. I don't know. I'm pretty good.
And I would say short of Quick Loads, the only way I know to quote pick the best powder is to try them.
Well,
I mean, that's what I did with 9mm. I was trying to make like really, really hot 9mm, and I picked a couple of different powders and shot them all side by side and went to see, which one was going to give me the best accuracy at higher pressures. And I found most of them, when the pressure went up, when the charge went up, the accuracy started opening up a little bit. And then Power Pistol was the one that no matter how hard I pushed it, it grouped nice and tight. So that's what I went with.
So I'm cheap. So as I'm looking, and I'm comparing those two, and I'm looking at the Hornady 9th load data, I'm noticing that Reloader 15 achieves 2,000 feet per second with 23.8 grains, where CFE 223 uses 27.9 grains to achieve the same speed. Being that I'm cheap, and I want to save money while I'm reloading.
There's a fallacy.
No, it's not. You can just shoot more for cheaper. And that's what everybody does. Push you.
But if you miss your target, you have to shoot twice, and that costs more.
Well, theoretically, if you're using your job or doing your job and you're hand loading, regardless of which powder you use, you should be able to hit the freaking target.
Depending on how big the target is, how far away it is it moving? Is it worth it to make your ammo 2-3 cents cheaper if your group size triples?
Well, that's the thing. So here's the question. Do you think And yes, I know some people are going to hurt themselves. But do you think that somewhere between 23.8 grains and 27.6 grains of reloader 15 that you'd be able to find an accurate load? If you don't, then maybe you'd better go back to the books and learn how to reload or hand load. Because I'm pretty sure you can find a load in that grouping with that bullet weight for that cartridge that would be accurate. You may have to search. You may have to go by 1/10 of a grain difference for each load, but you can find it. So that's my perspective, because even if I go to max load, it's only 27.6 grains, which is less than the 27.9 that I would be starting out at with CFE 223. Now there are other factors, because maybe reloader 15 won't measure well in your fancy dancy powder thrower, and maybe that's a possibility, and there's other things that could come into play. But ultimately, it's how much work you want to put into it. Now, you may be able to get a accurate load quicker with CFE 223. You may not. You may have to do the same thing. So, but there's plenty of powders out there. Why he narrowed it down to these two? Maybe it's because he has in stock. Paul asked about velocity. The velocities, the min and max, are the same. 2,000 at the min and 2,300 at the max. And maybe your CFE is more towards the hot than reloader 15, or maybe vice versa. The only way you're going to know is if you play with them both. Yeah. That would be a big difference. But ultimately, the correct answer is buy a pound of each. Get loading, bud. So, I mean, that's it. Honestly, that's the true answer. Buy a pound of each and load it up. So, but that's my opinion, and only my opinion. And everybody else went to sleep.
I'm not sleeping.
No, I was looking at a burn rate chart. I mean, honestly, Reloader 15 and CFE 223, they're not that far apart to begin with.
No.
A little bit.
Honestly, not really enough to make a difference.
I mean,
in my opinion,
if you're chasing tenths or chasing like 10 or 15 feet per second, yeah, maybe. But I'd say just what you said, Mike, get a pound of each and try them. Worst case scenario, you have to shoot more.
Well, as I recall,
damn it.
Matt has a chronograph. And the point is, my point is, work with standard deviation. If you're trying to take and go for accuracy, Matt, try to see if you can't tweak that standard deviation down to single digits, and see if that doesn't give you the result you're looking for.
I find that the fuller I get the case, the more accuracy I'll get. But you do need to decide what you want. Do you want to shoot long range? You want to shoot tight groups at 100 yards? You're going to be looking at two different recipes. One thing I forgot to mention is my North Carolina buddy, Dusty, he shot his first reloads this weekend, Jim.
Congratulations, Dusty.
Yep.
Welcome.
And the first thing he said was, I hope I don't blow my fingers off. And I said, wait a minute, let me get behind you.
That's what I felt like the first time I fired my reloads.
He was looking at his groups at 100 yards, and he was measuring his velocity. And I said, you need to decide what you want. You want tight groups at 100, or do you want to be able to shoot sub MOA at 1,000 yards or whatever distance you choose? Because what you really want for long distance is that standard deviation, or I always look at extreme spread. That's what I watch.
They're all related, Jason. You're right. But they are interrelated. But go ahead, please.
But you can shoot tight groups with 30 feet per second difference at 100 yards. But that 30 feet per second difference is going to show up at some point, at some distance. That will show up. So you need to decide what you want.
How does that manifest itself, Jason? The 30 feet per second difference.
The bullet reacting, let's see, to gravity basically, and wind speed will have some difference on it too. But if that bullet gets there, let's just pick a number and say 1 second. If that bullet gets there in 1 second, it doesn't react to gravity as much as if it took 2 seconds to get there. So it will show up at some point.
Excellent analogy, my young Padawan. And I'm no master. I just happen to know that you're right. Yeah, well, what the man's talking about is the fact that the bullet will get there sooner, higher velocity. But that SD, you want everything to get, what we're trying to say is, with a standard SD, you want your bullets to arrive there all at the same speed. Because that way it reacts to, it's being attracted by gravity and wind for the same duration of time. Which means the point of impact should be the same downrange. You know, we're not shooting lasers, guys. We're shooting rainbows, literally. It's not as curved as a rainbow. A rainbow is a perfect half circle. But the point is, our trajectories do sometimes do that. Parabolic curve is the correct name for it. And it's interesting, how many people believe our bullets arrive long distance downrange, point down? I'm saying flying over the air like so, and then take a nosedive. Or do they take that same nosedive, but once their nose is up, does the body of the bullet hit as opposed to the nose?
I would say that depends on your spin rate. If you're overspinning your bullet, it could possibly land flat. But if you are like in the zone, let's say, where it's spinning at the correct rate, the nose will go in first. That's what I think.
Why do you think that, my friend?
Basically watching a football, and sometimes when they got a lot of spin on them, that ball will come in kind of sideways as it starts going down. Sometimes when it's just the right amount of spin, the nose comes in.
You're saying the football arrives heel down when the spiral is very, very fast.
Yes. No, heel down. Like, let's see.
I was exaggerating, Jason. I was exaggerating.
Okay.
For clarity purposes.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're saying nose down when the spiral isn't quite so fast.
Correct. Or when it's correct speed for the bullet weight. But I think when you overstabilize a bullet, it would be more likely to want to keep the nose up as it's going down.
Have you ever played with the numbers, Jason, to find out how many RPM a bullet is actually spinning at?
No, I have not.
All right, let's use 12 inches per 12 inch revolution.
Okay.
Per revolution. Okay. And we're traveling at 5,000 feet per second, 1,000 feet per second. So that's 1,000 revolutions every second.
Yep.
Times 60. That's 1,000 times 60, which is 60,000 RPM.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say. And actually, I believe with some calibers, it actually gets a lot faster than that. But I'm saying the numbers I just pulled out, 1,000 feet per second, 12 inches per revolution, gives you a rotation. And that's also a fast handgun twist or a mild rifle twist. But remember, the velocity is handgun velocity. But anyway, you guys get the idea. 60,000 RPM for a 1 in 12 twist. Now, if you go with a 1 in 4 twist, you're talking 4 times faster, or 3 times faster, excuse me. 180,000 RPM.
So am I correct, Jim, or is my thinking correct?
It has been stated, no one knows for sure, it has been stated that bullets spinning at a high rate of speed do arrive with the heel pointing down.
Mm-hmm.
But on a steel target, who cares?
Right.
But on a paper target, it might look like a keyhole.
Yep.
An oval more than a keyhole. Keyhole is perfectly vertical, whereas the oval is more because your nose is up, but you're penetrating a target, paper target with the nose, but it's still arriving slightly heel down.
Okay.
Okay, next question. Okay. Greg Lacey posted in the Reloading Podcast group, and he posted a few days ago. He's looking for, again, it's a powder question. He's looking for powder recommendations for a 6.5 Grendel. He's using Varget under 120 grain Hornady ELDM, whatever that stands for. I am getting around 2350 feet per second. That's nice velocity. I'm wanting to get the velocity up to decrease wind effect at a longer distance. Evidently, Mr. Lacey is looking for long distance, Jason. So, what powders are giving good accuracy and velocity with 120 and 130 grain bullets? Also helping to have good temperature stability, and he wants to shoot it year round. If I am able to get the performance out of them, I am also looking to step up to a 130 grain bullet. Have looked through several reloading manuals, not wanting to try every powder in there. So far, my short list for 130s is IMR 8208, XBR, Win 748, BLC2, and Accurate 2520.
So the only one that really meets his temperature requirements is the 8208 XBR. That one is specifically engineered. That's part of the Enduron line. So that one's specifically engineered to not be temperature sensitive. The rest of them, theoretically, could be.
I know for a fact that BLC2 is somewhat temperature sensitive.
What caliber did he say? I didn't catch that part.
6.5 Grendel, Jason.
Okay.
Grendel, whichever you prefer. Phil, Travis, do you have anything to add to that one?
I have no experience with 6.5 Grendel. Only thing I wanted to mention was that Hornady ELDM. I don't know what it stands for off the top of my head, but that's Hornady's premier match bullet. I mean, that's what replaced the AMAX in their as their kind of top tier match bullet.
Okay, thank you.
Extreme long distance
Match. Yeah,
There you
that
go.
would work.
Because they also make another version of the ELD that's supposedly meant for long range hunting.
Yeah. Expert.
But yeah, I have no experience with 6.5 Grendel, so I couldn't tell you. Not a caliber I've jumped into yet.
Well, I think Mike nailed it with the temperature sensitivity, if that's what he wants.
Yep.
Rex corrected me. Extreme low drag.
Close enough. So, Mike, you want us to move on, or?
I was just looking at Sierra's load data on that. So Sierra has 130 grain, not 129 grain. So everything's a little different. And they have a different powder selection on quite a few. So, but yeah, on to the next. So Tim posted in the podcast group, I finally got to listen to podcast 243 today, and I was listening to your discussion about the guy not hitting target at 700 yards, but gripping quite nicely at 500. So it made me start thinking about the transition into and out of Mach, also known as transonic. Transonic happens in between 0.08 or 0.8 and 1.2 Mach. Amazing, I remember this from my aerospace college years. Oh well. So depending on the object, bullet is in transonic between 900 and 1350 feet per second. Now this is at sea level, 64 degrees, and in dry air. I did check myself with Wikipedia. As a side note, our pilot instructors call transonic area where Elvis lives, and you don't want to stay in that area very long. It would shake your plane a lot. Well, I hope this helps, and keep up the great work, guys. I really enjoy the podcast. So this kind of goes back to kind of what we were talking about on, one of the thoughts was, when does that hit transonic? And he was giving a little better explanation of where that deviations are. So. And then, so what you could do is with some of your reloading, or with some of your ballistic calculators, is you can kind of extrapolate that data out to your specific conditions. So,
The last question is a bit of a mess, Mike, but I think you pull the real question out.
All right. So he's shooting 6.5 Creedmoor, 140 grain Berger Elite Hunters. He's I don't know what the 37.6 is. That's the only thing I don't know. So maybe extreme spread.
That would be his powder charge. You didn't even say what powder charge he had.
Okay. So so his standard deviation was 11.5. Seating depth was 2.2. He said, could changing seating depth make my standard deviation better? Well,
that would be on him. That would be on you, Zach.
It could.
It could, and it could also drive it crazy.
Yep. As Paul said in the chat, I'm going to pull it back up so I don't misquote him. And one of Paul's suggestions was to try the, damn it, where'd it go?
For some reason, my feed on the chat, it's always behind 2 or 3 lines.
Are you looking for the powder he was recommending?
Paul said power. Well, he said varmint. Varmint. So it's Power Pro varmint. Some people even not know it is just varmint if they're looking. So, but what Paul said, where is it? Mike, every rifle is a law unto itself. And that kind of pretty much sums up Zach's answer. Is the only way he's going to know is to try. Some rifles, you have to have the bullet touching in order to get the max accuracy out of it. Some of it, you're talking 30 thousandths jump. So start playing.
In my experience, it can also be very bullet dependent because, I mean, I've talked about shooting 308 Winchester Hornady AMAX compared to Sierra Match Kings, and not only were the AMAX much pickier about charge weight, they were also picky about loaded overall length. The Sierra Match Kings not only don't seem as picky about charge weight, but at least in my 308 Winchester, they don't care if you load them touching the lands all the way back to 2.8 inches. I mean, they literally, nothing I've ever seen has indicated to me that, at least in my rifle, 168 grain Match Kings don't care what length you load them at. They'll shoot the same group no matter what.
Yep.
That's a mighty fine bullet, and it's been around for a very long time. It's hard to go wrong with a 168 grain Match King.
Yep. And I understand 168 grain AMAX shot damn fine out of my rifle too, but it was pickier. It was the kind of round that when I loaded those, I had to do everything absolutely right, or the load would not come together. 168 grain Match Kings, I could pretty much shut my eyes and let my 6-year-old load it. It'll spit out, sub MOA out of my 308.
Hey, just for clarification, the ELDM is extremely low drag match, and the ELDX is their hunting round, their hunting projectile.
Yeah, I haven't looked into those two new Hornady projectiles yet to see what all the difference is, but I know they claim it's different.
One of the things is the material that they use for the plastic tip. They, I guess, were getting to where the tip would actually melt on the old ones, so they came out with this new version where it wouldn't melt.
Oh no, that's the definite difference between the ELDs and the AMAGs. I was referring to the difference between the ELDM and the ELDX, the hunting bullets versus the match bullets. There's supposed to be some difference between the two. I don't know what it is yet, but no, that's specifically where the ELDs came from, because Hornady was using a Doppler radar and they were tracking these bullets over long range, and they were discovering that the ballistic coefficient was actually changing in flight, and they couldn't figure out why. And somehow they figured out that the polymer tip on the end of the AMAX was actually getting so hot from air friction, it was melting, which was screwing with the BC of the bullets.
Okay.
Wow.
Now, I don't know what kind of magicians they have working in Hornady that figured all that out, but I'm impressed.
I'd say high-speed photography probably had a lot. Or high-speed photography, high-speed video had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, but I mean, think about the amount of how neurotic you have to be to look at velocity and velocity decay over range, and then crunch all this data and say, "Hey, why is the ballistic coefficient changing over 600-700 yards?" That shouldn't happen. Once the bullet's in the air, it shouldn't change. The bullet shouldn't be changing as it flies through the air. But they determined from the data that it was. And they traced it back to the polymer tip, which I still find, I mean, I don't know. I'm a little bit of a nerd, forgive me, but I find it a little bit impressive that there's so much air friction on the nose of a bullet in flight. It was melting the polymer tip in midair.
The senior ballistician at Burger Bullets does that for a living all day long. His name is Brian Leeds.
I would like to intern with him.
We all would. He's one of the first guys that ever shot 2 miles.
And you know what? I've got some annual leave stocked up. I could take a little sabbatical from work. I'll live out of my car.
You would. That's all I got, Mike.
Yep. I was just comparing the two. So basically,
yeah, I'm looking on Hornady stuff. The ELDX, the X stands for expanding, and I'm just trying to read up on what they've got. The main difference between the two is.
Well, that is the main difference. Is the main difference between the two is the ELDM is not designed to expand.
Right. I'm reading up right now. I got caught up looking at the heat, heat shield tip. Yeah,
they're both using the heat shield tip, so that's a wash.
But it's pretty interesting to read what they've been doing with that.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to get back to on the 6.5 Grendel conversation. Gray Knight 2012 said Johnny's Reloading Bench on YouTube has a whole series on 6.5 Grendel where he tests a bunch of different powders and bullets. Might be worth checking out. So
I'll echo that for anything Johnny's Reloading Bench has done.
Yeah.
His, you know, I mean, here on this show, it's kind of difficult for us to deep dive into a category, you know what I'm saying, the way he does. But I mean, he'll dedicate a 2-hour video to nothing but shooting 4 powders and 1 cartridge with 1 bullet. I mean, it's neurotic.
Mhm.
It's impressive, and the data he generates is very worthwhile. But
Yeah, I think Johnny's Reloading Bench has the best reloading videos out there.
yeah, they're very involved and they're a little on the dry side at times, but it's worth muscling through. Like if you're looking to do load tuning on a round that he's done a lot of load development on, there's no shame in riding his coattails to at least see what worked for him and using that as an approximate starting point. I mean, hell, we do that here, asking each other what load shot grade in your rifle. Let me try that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, but yeah, no, Hornady got serious because they were not doing well at long distance, and they needed to figure out why. So that's what they did, and they figured out they had to figure out what was causing the problems, and so.
Well, you know, the thing is, thinking about it, I've been thinking about this hard and fast. That with the Doppler radar, they could track the physical flight of the bullet. Okay,
Yeah.
They know where the bullet's going to be. They know where to place their video and photographic equipment, so the equipment would be safe. But you know, they've got a lot of money invested in it. Hornady is not a small change outfit.
Nope, but that's why they spent more money on it. I'm sure it's because they weren't getting the results that they wanted.
That's right.
So,
And to do that, well, somebody had to make a decision. And unfortunately, in our day and age, and this time of the time and so on and so forth, our society, the people that control the purse strings have a lot to say about what goes on. Well, I think that we control the purse strings, and we weren't getting the results, and we were putting up a clamor that Hornady couldn't ignore.
definitely could be. So,
And I consider Steve Hornady to be a hell of a nice guy. Alan Classic, I do believe Alan Classic has actually met the guy, shook hands with him.
I met him. Actually, I met him at NRA and talked to him again for a few at
Nashville, wasn't it?
SHOT.
Oh, okay.
So, and I'm sure I'll see him again in Indy coming up. So, I'm sure the Firearms Radio Network will have some sort of get together for listeners at Indy. When I get details, I'll pass it along. So, but yeah, definitely looking forward to going to Indy. So, well, that pretty much wraps it up for tonight, gang. Appreciate everybody stopping by in the chat and watching us live. Appreciate everybody who has spent time and effort to send us emails and texts and just reach out in various ways communicating. Text if you want to send it. 608-467-0308. Email reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. You can find, if you're looking for show notes, somebody had asked about show notes. There really isn't a way to attach it to YouTube that I know of yet. What I need to do is get serious about putting them all over a couple places. But we do have them posted with at the show website, which is firearmsradio.tv/reloading-podcast. So, and sometimes the show notes aren't even done by the time we're done with the show. So that's the other problem with trying to post them on YouTube, is we do make changes as we go. So, but at any rate, I mean, worst case scenario, if you really need the show notes, let me know. It's a Google Doc. I can share it with you. Send me an email to reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. And then once I create the actual full version of the show notes, I can share them with you. So we can do that. At any rate, thank you to all the people that swing by firearmsradio.tv and hit up the affiliate links. Phil, Greg says, get your damn book done.
I'm working
I
on
say,
it.
get your damn book done. Everybody says, get your damn book done.
Listen, I haven't gone into it a lot, but the people that are very close to me know that I've had a very trying time since Christmas with my workplace.
Yes, you have.
And things are finally starting to settle down to something that moderately resembles sanity. So I'm able to start. I know. But hear me out. I'm back to work on the book. I'm about halfway through the sequel. I think I'm at like 36,000 words. So it's coming out. It's just I had an unintentional like 2.5 month break from writing, which was not what I wanted to do. But when I was working, 12 and 14-hour days and working on the weekends, it wasn't happening.
Don't worry, Paul's yelling at me. He says, Mike, get the 366 running. That's this week. So I've had issues with work and other things too. So I feel you, Phil, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to give you crap. So
that's fair.
No, it's nothing to do with fair. We give each other crap all the time. That's par for the course, not fair.
Par for the course? What? Golf? Where?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway. So, Jason, you awake?
Barely.
All right.
Those eyes are blinking slower and slower and slower and slower.
Well, he's probably starving because basically he rushes home and then hops on the computer. He doesn't even get dinner.
He gets on the computer at 5 p.m. his time.
Yep.
That's what I was doing when we started.
Yeah.
If anybody pays attention, you'll see he still has paint on his hands.
I do.
He's got paint on his forehead too. Or his forehead goes from here all the way back to. Never mind.
Stop it.
You hairy bastard.
I know. I gotta get a haircut. I'm pretty shaggy.
Hey, ease up on us follically challenged people, okay?
Yeah, but you have a smoking hot beard, so. And my beard looks like when I grow it because it comes in like 5 different colors. So, some point in time, I'll reach it where it's just all gray and I'll be good. But for now, I don't have a beard because it sucks. Paul says we can't shoot no golf. We didn't bring any guns. Valid point. So, because golf is a perfectly good waste of a rifle range. Anyway, what's that?
I said we'd rather shoot the balls than to hit them.
Yeah, it's much easier to shoot a ball at 300 yards than it is to hit a ball 300 yards.
That sounds like a hell of a lot of fun to me.
Yes.
Jason 6'5" ought to take him and give him a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, that's all the news that isn't. Just want to thank, got a couple of new Patreons, so check the show notes when we get caught up. You'll see them in the show notes. So we appreciate them coming on board and just grateful for everybody that helps out. So grateful for all you that sit there and deal with me and my idiosyncrasies while we mosey along this lovely path. So, and yet you keep coming back week after week. You guys just must be as much of a glutton for punishment as I am.
Masochism is the thing.
Yes. So. Oh, totally forgot that, Paul. He reminded me that was actually a quote from the Three Stooges. I think Curly said it. And then Mo immediately punished him afterwards. So
Said what?
we can't shoot no golf. We didn't bring any guns.
Oh.
That was a horrible Curly impersonation.
I got it.
I know, but it was still horrible. Ugh. So.
Larry, Moe, and Curly Joe.
Uh-huh.
And Shemp.
Yeah.
There was somebody else too.
Well, there was Curly, and there was Shump, and then there was Curly Joe.
Yeah. And Larry was always the curly-headed guy, and Curly had no hair whatsoever.
Ironic. Very ironic. Great American entertainment. So, on that route, I'm going to go finish the rest of this squirt and Tito's and post the podcast. Like, so, you all night. Remember, keep your breath shiny.
Be an asset, not a liability.
Get out and do some bullet casting.
Buy it cheap and stack it deep.
Squeeze, don't yank that trigger.
Squeeze it slow and easy.